Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for part two, where we're talking about transitioning from 100% focus on real estate to focusing a little bit more on business and using AI as an option or as a way to help you streamline your systems, improve business flow, and ultimately grow and scale more quickly and easily. So we're doing a bit of a flip today. Although this is my normal webinar series, Limor is going to be asking me questions. Limor,
Actually, before we start, one
yeah.
question I have for you is, do you know, and I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't ask this before, do you know how many approximate webinars you have hosted? If you had a guess.
Oh, ballpark, I'd say probably 40 because I started doing this when COVID started.
Nice, nice. Okay, well, I'm excited to be hosting and asking you questions on your very own show. So thank you for this exciting opportunity.
Well, I appreciate it. I love that you came up with the idea because I'm not a huge fan of talking about myself all the time. So it's really nice to have the opportunity to kind of share some of my insights and experiences, but not in a way that feels, disingenuous. I
Of course.
appreciate you offering and volunteering. All right, so I have a little disclaimer here that goes with all of our presentations. We love Limor, we love her to pieces, and we know that she's going to share amazing value. So I'm really not worried about anything here in the disclaimer. But just a quick reminder: make sure in the chat box that you have clicked the drop down and it says everyone, not hosts and panelists, because then only Limor and I will see. And if you have any questions that we're going to cover at the end of the webinar, then make sure you put it in the Q&A tab. So our agenda today is we're going to do quick introductions, then we're going to talk about moving beyond real estate. And I've decided on the fly here, we're going to do the webinar wrap up, and then we'll come back to the audience questions at the end, because I do recognize that some people are joining us just for an hour today. So I want to make sure we get through all the important stuff, and then we have a time to relax a little bit with people's questions. Your host today is my beautiful, talented, incredible friend, Limor Markman. We go 12 years, I think we go back to
Oh
2012,
yeah.
don't we? Yeah. So Limor is a business success coach, and she's a certified AI specialist with a proven track record of empowering investors. She is the founder of Absolute Ascent, and she helps clients, she guides them through business growth and AI integration. And this is the thing that made the difference for me. I was already using ChatGPT, but working with Limor, she gave me the prompts are everything. Knowing the right questions to ask, the right way to ask them, the right information to provide. Watching Limor is just the quality of the information I get out of my questions has just been absolutely next level. And she's also a mother of two, and your first one just had her third birthday relatively recently.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to move on today. I am the guest. I've been a real estate investor for 20 years, approaching 20 years. I've done pretty much every investment strategy, and I have had the distinct pleasure of being a real estate coach for the last 5 years. And I was thinking this weekend about coaching and about, I know there's a lot of people who kind of offer coaching, but for me, it's something I'm so passionate about. And I think it's because I was trying to think about how I knew coaching was the right fit for me, Limor, because, we get in these thought processes. And I
Mm-hmm.
suddenly realized it's because I see the potential and the future for people before they see it for themselves.
That's cool.
And that's one of the things that I think your husband, who's my high performance coach, Andy, he does as well, is he sees what people can become, what their lives can be, even before you have the capacity to see it for yourself. And I think that that's what makes people who are sort of called to coaching, that makes kind of the difference.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to stop the share. And that was a sneak peek into the business challenge. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Limor, and this is your show. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So, I wanted to just, mention a couple of quick things to recap our last conversation, because for those of you who attended, we're sort of going to dovetail into that today. We talked about the market changes and how real estate investing has really evolved. So many of the factors have changed, the world has changed. And I think we had a lot of people, especially in the chat box, kind of virtually nodding their head and saying things just seem to be a little bit harder these days than perhaps they've been in the past from an investment standpoint. And what used to be sort of this like easy peasy, put your feet up, passive investing requires a lot more roll up your sleeves these days. And how a lot of that requires us to take our business mindset to another level. So many of us have had on the real estate front some support, coaches, networking, anything of that nature, but we're really needing to evolve our sphere of investing and business and income generation, because ultimately this is about cash flow so we can live our best lives. And I know that's really near and dear to Elizabeth, and one of the things that drives her not only in her own ventures but in supporting her clients. So we talked a lot about that, and Elizabeth asked me a lot of questions, but we're turning things around today. And so Elizabeth, I wanted to start off by asking you for your thoughts. You've obviously been investing for 20 years. You've been coaching for over 5. And I'm curious, what are your insights and observations of some of the shifts you've noticed recently with the market, with the process of investing, and how does this influence your current strategy? So give us your 2 cents of what you're seeing, feeling, and maybe even doing.
Okay, I definitely want to do that. Before I do that, I'd love to know who has felt that investing the last 3 years has been different. Just the energy around investing. Type in the chat box, say, yeah, it's felt different, or no, it's business as usual. I'm curious to see if what I'm seeing is what everybody else is seeing and feeling. And while people are typing and saying that, I'm going to answer your question. And I think that's such an interesting question because what I've actually seen is a split. And what I've seen is that the people who've been investing for kind of the last, we're almost split into 3 segments now. So for people who were investing before, let's say 2018, those I would consider sort of more experienced investors. Their mortgage rates, like just the loan to value is lower. There's just a whole bunch of different factors that sort of there's pre 2019 or 2018 investors. There's the people who sort of started investing in the last 5 years. And then there's the people who are brand new who are coming in now. So the people who haven't been investing for a long time, by and large, they're fundamentally okay. Like people like you, people like me, you know, we've we've seen the changes, we've seen what's coming, we have low loan to values, we've bought at lower prices. There's just a lot that's given us stability in our portfolios. And then we have the people who are coming in now, and they haven't been privy to everything that's happened in the last couple of years. So they haven't seen, the developers go under. They haven't seen the private lending situations that have happened. They haven't seen, the I was doing burrs successfully pulling all my money out, or I was doing flips successfully and selling, and now that's not happening anymore. So these new people coming in fundamentally are so enthusiastic, and they're like, real estate investing is amazing. And most of us can probably think back to what we were like when we started. But fundamentally, there's this group of people in the middle, and I'm looking at the names of the people here, and I feel like it's pretty much everybody who's on this webinar today. And we're the ones who are in this kind of no man's land where, and I'd love to hear, is anybody going, should I keep investing in real estate? Like, is this really what I should be doing right now? We hear about the companies going under, we hear about the people who can't, into bankruptcy. Like, it's been so heavy and it's been so challenging. And I can feel it from people. The energy is just beaten up and like, I don't know what to do next. I'm not sure. I feel like the governments have said don't pay your rent. um you've got all these things that have happened, and it's like I don't want people to lose faith, because fundamentally real estate investing is a great place to be. It's a great place to park your wealth. But I think what people need right now is control over their cash flow. They need the ability to make money. And in real estate, with the prices we're paying and the rules that are now governing us and the misconceptions about how it's so passive and we don't have to do anything, I think a lot of people have kind of gone, this isn't what I thought it would be. I had expectations and it hasn't been like that the last few years. So that's where I think people have been, and where I've seen the light at the end of the tunnel, where I've seen people light up, is looking at making this shift or this transition into businesses and viewing your business, viewing real estate as a business, and exploring opportunities to start an active business or a side hustle or to generate income through those ways. I actually, interestingly, I had a conversation with one of my clients yesterday, and he said, I want to focus on cash flow. And we talked through all the different options. He has a considerable real estate portfolio. It's not generating the cash flow that he thought it was. But when we started exploring business options, all of a sudden it was like, if I take some of this capital over here and I invested in a business, I can start generating income almost right away for much, much less than buying a multi-unit apartment building. So that's fundamentally what I'm seeing. And it's been interesting because a lot of my existing clients have also transitioned in that direction.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being so honest. And I really like the distinction that you made about, the three different groups, but depending on when they've started, what's been their experience, what they've seen, and how this is really evolving for them. And I think that it's really neat that you're saying, okay, there's another depth to real estate by adding a business component to it. And so as you've seen all these changes in the years, you've obviously been making changes in your own world, in your own portfolio. But I know you've also been making changes in your coaching to be able to support people. And, you're definitely not one of those one size fits all. You've got a lot of custom approaches. And I know you're always very dedicated to helping the people you're working with and seeing them drive the results that they're really looking for. So, with your coaching that has evolved, can you share how maybe your approach to coaching clients has changed and what new challenges you're really helping to overcome? And I don't know, maybe there's a little more detail there on the conversation you had yesterday with that gentleman.
For sure. Um, so what I kind of did was I sat back a couple of years ago, and because I knew COVID changed a lot of things fundamentally, and I started thinking about where I made money and where I didn't. And where I discovered I made money is I have a large commercial building up north. It's about 33,000 square feet. And by taking over managing my building and by focusing 100% on cash flow, by increasing my marketing, I was able to take control and use that one building and turn it into a business and run it like a business. So now it's, what does my customer satisfaction look like? What is the process for intake? Like, I literally stopped running it like an investment property, like a traditional investment property. And I thought, how do I monetize the different spaces? And I chopped up the building into different spaces and I rent them out individually and I focus on generating income that way. And when I started talking to my clients about it, especially people whose portfolios had gone from positively to negatively cash flowing based on the interest rate changes, we started saying, okay, if we apply a business mindset to this portfolio, what can we do? Where can we increase income? Where can we reduce expenses? And so we were able to make some strides forward from that perspective. But the reality was, it wasn't enough typically to turn a negative portfolio impacted by interest rates into a positive. So then I started saying, where can we apply business to this portfolio? So it became, I have clients who started property management companies. I have clients who started rent to own companies, clients who started Airbnb cleaning companies, cleaning businesses, clients who are doing Airbnb or short-term rental management. And it was by applying those that we were able to increase the cash flow enough to not just offset the negative cash flow, but actually generate an income. I have one client who's like, I want to go on maternity leave and I don't want to ever go back to my job. So we had 1 year to replace my income. And she's so focused and she's so dedicated and determined to doing it. And growing her business is how we're going to do that. So what types of businesses people are buying? Michelle, I'm not seeing so much people buying businesses. I'm seeing people take their skill set. You make a list of the things that you're good at, of your strengths, of your experience. Look at your resume if you're struggling, and say, what can I do with these skills that's going to be beneficial that other people are looking for? And what is missing right now? Like, the whole reason I started my property management company 15 years ago was because I'd gone through 3 or 4 different local property managers. Nobody was looking after my portfolio the way that I wanted it to be done. So it was literally me going, if I create the systems and processes, I think I can do this myself. And I ran it for 15 years. And so what's happened with my clients is I've started 4 companies. And as my clients have determined that they want to start companies, my business has naturally transitioned into this business, into serving clients who want to start businesses. And now when I do discovery calls with people, I do have some people coming who are saying, teach me how to invest in apartments. But most people are coming to me saying, help me generate cash flow. And when we explore real estate versus businesses, inevitably they're heading in the direction of businesses because it gives us so much control. I mean, I have the absolute blessing of being able to sit here on a Monday from my home office because I started a business. And I just find the freedom comes more from that than anything else right now.
That's amazing. And I like that you've really said it's not about doing something completely wild and different. It's about taking what you're already good at. And in your situation, something that you had a need for, and then obviously a passion and desire, and then going and building it for yourself, but also really helping and supporting people in the community around you. So that's super, super powerful. And I like that you've made that shift not only for yourself, but for so many of your clients that you're working with, and that now people are coming to you for 2 different things. They want to know, how do I invest in real estate if it's the right time and they have the right assets and ready for in their portfolio? But at the same time, there's a lot of people saying, hey, can you help me to elevate my business or add a business or, side hustle a business out of my real estate? Because to be an investor, you've already got certain mindsets that are a bit contrarian, that are outside of the norms of
Mm-hmm.
what's, someone who's in a typical job. So with that, I'm curious because I've heard you talk about the difference between an investor mindset and a business owner mindset. How would you describe the difference, and what needs to happen for someone to evolve into a business mindset?
Hmm. That's a great question. So I find a lot of times with investors, we're very much, we're focused on some basic key metrics. We're looking at, cost per unit, and we're looking, we're fundamentally, it's much more structured. And I find it's kind of a smaller playground to play in, if that makes sense. Like, we're governed by the Residential Tenancy Act where we're investing. We're governed by what the lenders are willing to lend us in terms of capital to buy a building. We're governed by CMHC, and what they say today is their lending criteria. By the way, it'll be different tomorrow if you haven't figured that out yet. Um, there's a lot of kind of rules and control, and I find moving into the business space, it's been tremendously freeing. And especially when you're starting a business from the perspective of, I see a need that's not being met. Like my clients who started the Airbnb cleaning business, they struggled to find cleaning people who would get the job done, would show up consistently, would do a fantastic job with their Airbnb properties. So they gave up and just pulled everything in-house, and suddenly it became so much easier. They had the consistency, they had the reliability, they had the control, as opposed to, and I guess this is sort of, actually, as I'm talking it through now, this is part of it, is it's about control. It's about who are you going to give control over your future to, and your cash flow in the moment as well. So in terms of making the transition, I think anybody can do it. I think you just have to be open to it. And sometimes that's the most challenging, is kind of being open to this new perspective, to these new ideas, to these new opportunities. But when I look at real estate and then I look at business, to me, in business, the world is your oyster. Whatever type of business you want to start. And it might be real estate adjacent. Like maybe you decide to become a realtor or a property manager or a mortgage broker, or it might be something completely different. But no matter which way you go, the other thing I love about businesses is that, with real estate, you have to have the down payment and you have to be able to qualify for the income and all these other things. And in business, you can decide, you know what? I'm going to start doing this. And sometimes, like in property management, it was my husband and we were doing all the property management, and it didn't cost us very much to start the business, like less than $10,000. So, for all the people who have heard for so long OPM, who in here has heard the whole OPM, 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 and that OPM is the solution to everything? I think we've seen these last couple of years, OPM, if not used prudently, can get you into some really serious hot water. So if you could start creating cash flow without having to use OPM, and then use that cash flow, make more money, build a business, build an asset, but then park that income in real estate and continue to use it to build wealth, that I think fundamentally feels better to me and most people right now.
For sure. And, by no means, and I love how you clarified at the start of our conversation, this is not about saying that real estate's not a good vehicle. It is still a really great vehicle and there's a role for it. But I know you and I have chatted, and I think we talked about it a little bit on the last webinar that, you know, passive income isn't quite as passive as it once used to be. You could have a great property management and your tenants paid the rent every month, and there were no issues and it was cash flowing and you could put very little time into it. But now, as we're, seeing multiple aspects of the market change and tenant behavior and interest rates and all these kinds of things all happening, even strategies that were more passive in nature are now requiring more effort. And so if we're putting in the effort, the business component may be a really powerful place to say and to really be putting your energy for an income perspective. And I think, nowadays people don't all want to have, and I think there's less of a leniency of, hey, I want to put $100,000 into this next property. Well, exactly like you said, with minimal effort, there's definitely an opportunity to be able to be generating income, especially with what we're seeing happening in technology. So I'm curious from your perspective, we talked about AI a lot, but how have you seen your clients' businesses evolve, particularly with an emphasis on economy and technology changing?
Um, okay, so two pieces. One is what I've seen is one of the critical things that you should be doing when you're thinking about starting a business is take a look at your competition and figure out how you can um, meet people's needs better than your competition is currently doing it. So making sure that you understand what your competition is doing, what they're offering, how they're handling things. And I call it like the client journey. So if I was a property manager, so if I had a property manager, what does that whole experience feel like? How do they communicate with me? How do I keep my eyes on what's going on in my building? What is the approval process like for repairs to be done? Like, what is that whole client journey like, start to finish? And then when I'm thinking about creating from a business perspective, I think about what is the optimal client journey? And then I create the systems and processes to support that. I bring in the technology that make communicating with my investors an absolute breeze because they can log in and they have, real time vision into their portfolio and what's going on. And this is where I think AI has become so powerful, is because it enables you to save time with systems and processes. It enables you to make sure that you are not forgetting things. It supports your creativity and your creation when you've got, in the past, starting a business felt really heavy and really challenging, and it felt really time consuming. And technology and AI in particular have really expedited that process and taken a lot of the heavy lifting away, I find.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you are in part one of our session, AI has really transformed my world and the way I'm working with clients. But you're absolutely right that previously, everything that you wanted to do, you had to go out, get the training, and you had to pretty much do it yourself, or you could outsource it, which could be costly or could take time. And now with AI at our fingertips, we're able to make things happen and appear a whole lot faster, especially when it comes to things like processes and steps and outlining and having standard operating procedures. And I know you're using that kind of thing a lot with your clients. So, congratulations on really embracing it, because I think that's part of the business mindset, is being open-minded and really embracing something that's new. And fundamentally, anyone who's gone into real estate is doing things that are new and different and not the norm, so to speak. So, AI could be something that's really complementary and very powerful for you. Now, I do want to have you a couple more questions about this, but I want to sidestep for a second because I wanted to reference something you were talking about recently when we were on a conversation, and you're talking about the mistakes that investors make. And I know the audience is going to get a lot of value out of your take on this. So, when you speak about the mistakes that investor makes from your perspective and what you've seen, what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing people making today? And then for the people who are working with you, or your general advice, how do you guide them to avoid making these mistakes?
Okay, so I'm going to say something really contrarian here. But a lot of the real estate community is based on FOMO. It's based on the fear of missing out. It's based on, if you don't buy this, then you're going to miss out on this opportunity. If you don't buy this property, if you don't buy this course, if you don't buy this, opportunity, then you're going to miss out. And the fundamental thing I believe that counteracts this whole FOMO mentality is knowledge and education. And it's making sure that it's done the right way, the right people, the right information. Um, and I feel like that is literally the biggest challenge right now, is that people have been, pressured to buy properties. And you've seen, if you were a flipper and you bought a property in 2022, you might be in a situation that's pretty challenging right now. And it's literally, there's been this focus on just take action, just take action, just take action. And I feel like there should be more focus on take strategic action, take action from a position of knowledge and information. And because you've run your numbers, and because you've done your due diligence, and because you've evaluated these borrowers, and you've asked all the right questions, and then you've taken it to a lawyer and had the agreement drafted in a way that protects you, as opposed to just using a one-page promissory note that they provided for you. It all comes down to, we've taken this rapid action because we're afraid of missing out. Anybody here in the chat been victim to the I was afraid of missing out, so I just got in?
Well, I've definitely seen a lot of motivated buyers, so I hear what you're saying with.
Yeah. And it might be, insufficient due diligence. It might be not understanding the risks of, using other people's money and not fully understanding fundamentally. It might be, not knowing how to run the finances of a business. It's one thing to run your numbers before you buy a property and to have all your projections. It's another thing to be managing the bank account and have nothing in the bank account but repairs that need to be done because the actual cash flow hasn't matched your projections. So this is fundamentally what I'm seeing, is um this desire to take action, to participate, to be part of this, like, I'm an action taker, without slowing down and going, do I have the right knowledge? And am I making decisions about what's right for me? Is this risk too much in this investment for my risk tolerance level? Um, does that kind of answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. That's really key. And that's definitely one of the three mistakes that I've heard you talk about, where, you know, people are just jumping in. And I like how you really turned that around and said, it's not just about taking action, it's about taking strategic action. Do you want to
Mhm.
share a little bit on the other mistakes you think you see people making?
Um, I do, but I'm wondering if I want to move along to something that
Okay.
actually feels good.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So we're going to avoid those things. And you were talking about AI, and I did sidestep us. So let's
Yeah.
talk about some of the great things that you're doing. You've definitely embraced AI as part of your business strategy.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering if you can share how AI specifically has helped you transform your business, and maybe what impact it's had on your thinking as a thinking partner and your decision making.
Yeah. So before I started working with you, I would use ChatGPT and I just ask it kind of like Google and I just ask it questions and it would give me answers and I thought that was fine. Um, but then once we started working together and I started seeing, so now I use AI I use it a lot in the marketing space. So, I mean, all of the captions and the social media posts and even um, the what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you send it out, all the emails that go out to invite people to join webinars. In the past, all of that would have been laboriously created with myself or myself and my assistant, and then after time, my assistant. And it took a long time. And now it's really easy to brainstorm with AI and say, this is the need I'm seeing. How can I create a webinar that's going to meet the needs? How can I, what information, this is what people are telling me they want or they need. And then I want to make sure that I'm providing answers. And this fundamentally is where the idea behind the Resilience Summit came from, was all these questions that people are asking. And instead of having the same conversation 15 times, I want to just bring in somebody who knows what they're doing and can answer all those questions and then put up the webinar and people can watch it. Because if you have a question, chances are a ton of other people out there have the same question. So AI allows me really quickly and easily to be able to craft a response in a way that doesn't take as much time. So it gives me time freedom. I might have spent a day or 2 days working with Mary Beth, and between the two of us, it would take 2 days to craft all the marketing and everything else. And now it's 30 minutes and everything's done and I can move on to something else that's more fulfilling. So if you apply that to business in general, about all the ways that AI can help you create and streamline systems and processes. I mean, even something as simple as with one of my clients, we're planning an event. So I went to AI and I typed out like this whole paragraph. Oh, I didn't type out, I dictated because you taught me that. But I dictated this whole paragraph on, this is the situation with the business. This is where we're at. They've moved 20 kilometers. Like this is the demographic. This is what we want to do. Da, da, da. And I said, we're looking for ideas. We want to do an open house. And it came back with some of the coolest stuff. And I find there's a level of comfort as well with AI because we're human. And there are times where we forget things. We forget important things. You look back and you go, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? But you missed it because you're human. And that's one of the things I love too, is that when I say, okay, make a list of this, or, what are the factors that you need to consider when making a decision about this, then it's been really powerful. And then even on the personal side, the other day I was working with my husband on taxes and it's a super stressful time for us. And, there tends to be some of the like back and forth and you very wisely suggested, why don't you create a framework and some rules around, this tax thing? And so we went to Brene Brown and we said, okay, if you were Brene Brown, because I admire her so much, if you were Brene Brown and you had someone who came to you who said, I'm working with my partner on something to do with business, how do I minimize conflict? And we came up with a whole set of rules, which I presented to my husband. We thought it was fantastic. And we've been happily working away on taxes for days now with none of the conflict that we had before. So I find it kind of improves your life in a whole bunch of different areas, not just business, but business is awesome.
Yeah, no, I really love that you're saying that. And you've been a super student, learning about how it works. And I think some of the things that I've really seen you knew really well. First of all, like you just said, the story on working on the taxes, but AI can help you to be a better human. Let them know what challenge you're having, what struggle you're working through, explaining the desired outcome, and then using it to be able to create processes and steps. And I love that it's saving a lot of time for you. But one of the things I know that you had mentioned is not only is it saving time, but before, when you and your assistant would sit down to write marketing material, of course, you know your client very well. But when you're doing it with AI, you're really explaining, here's my ideal client, here's their dreams and desires, here's their fears, here's their customer profile, and then layering on the communication afterwards. It's totally different, not only done faster, but it's being created with the intention in mind of your ideal customer and creating the processes with your ideal customer. So exactly like how you said earlier, one of the ways that you can go ahead and start an amazing business is through, in fact, figuring out what's a customer process that would be ideal for you and then turning that into business for others. So that's really great.
Absolutely. And I find, I mean, it is very rare that, what it gives you, you use 100%. Like you're always going to modify it.
No.
The prompt is your voice, and you're always going to modify it and change some of the words. But what it eliminates, I find for a lot of my clients too, is that situation where you're starting with a blank page.
Hmm.
It's, as entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting out, you typically are kind of you're doing it on your own. Maybe you don't have a big network. Maybe you don't have an assistant who works with you. You don't have a partner, and so you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I need to write an ad for my apartment that I'm listing. So it's always harder to start from a blank page. And the other thing I love is the opportunity to go in and say, and I talk to AI like it's my friend sometimes. So I'm like,
Oh,
hey,
so do I, of course.
I find I get better results when I'm like when I say please and thank you and that kind of stuff. But I'll go in and I'll say, "Hey, I'm having a tough day today. This is what I'm struggling with. What would you recommend?" Or I have this idea or this vision for a business. Help me talk it through. And it'll ask you questions and it'll get you thinking about things. And you can say, what's the next step in the process? What do I need to be considering? So I think sometimes use it a bit like an interactive journal where it's like I can get my thoughts out, I can capture, and then I can expand and grow on it. And then it's honestly, it's probably the most cost effective. Um,
Therapist.
it's a great problem solver. What's that?
No, no, no. No, no, that's great that you're interacting. And I really like you just said about an interactive journal because that really gets us thinking and evolving and getting all those ideas. So, I mean, you talked about using it at your stage of business. Do you think all entrepreneurs should be using it in some way, shape, or form?
Oh, 100%. And it doesn't matter whether, you have a real estate portfolio right now. Like, you can go to it and say, I need to hire a property manager. What are the questions that I need to ask to make sure I hire a good property manager? Or you can start with, I'm new to private lending. What should be included in my due diligence process? Or what are the podcasts that I need to listen to or the books that I need to read to help me with this? It's not going to replace, like, it would never replace a coach or a person as someone with, like, the global perspective looking at your business and helping you real time, but it can definitely be a tool. That's really what it is it's a tool to make you more efficient, more productive, more polished, I wanna say.
Hmm.
Like, there are some listings that I read and I'm like, you could have run that through through AI and had a super listing, and you just like your set and structure your grant, like it doesn't make sense. So, we will run it through AI and then we'll use Grammarly to polish up the grammar. Like it just improves the communication, I find.
And I think that it also helps you to get back to what you're ultimately doing. And I think this is something you and I talk about all the time, talk with our clients all the time. It's about we're trying to build, we're working towards a better life where we have more cash flow and more time freedom. So if there's a tool that helps you to do things better, faster, and cheaper so you can get to the things you love in your business or in your personal life, you're set for sure. So we're kind of getting closer to our time here, but I'm curious what new opportunities you see emerging for entrepreneurs who are looking to think beyond traditional investments like real estate. Is there any other examples that you wanted to share? I know you've provided some great ones in the early part of our conversation, but for people who are here today and you've just blown their mind for the first time in a long time, thinking about their investments differently, what do you think are some of those traditional investment things that they can move beyond?
Okay. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll tell you where I've used AI the most. So
Great.
one of the most consistent things that I've done with my clients who are starting businesses is I've helped them figure out their avatar. who is their customer, and it's the hero's journey, right? So it's figuring out who are they marketing to, who is their ideal client, and then you can ask it, and it'll even go so far. I did this with one of my clients last week, and it'll say your two types of clients are Susan, age 43, she's a blah blah blah, and it'll actually break down for you. And then you can say, okay, what's the best way to connect with or reach these people? And then you can say, based on this information, can you create 5 social media posts for me? Like, it's just literally understanding and figuring out how to generate income the most quickly and efficiently with a business.
I love it.
So that's been a really key piece. The other piece I think that's been really good is one of the things as entrepreneurs you probably find, I know you found it, I found it in all of the businesses that I started, is when you start it, there's typically no money there to pay somebody else to do stuff. So you are literally the jack of all trades. You are going to be doing everything. And when you talk to a lot of people, you say, what's the heaviest part? And they say marketing. They say, I don't have the ideas. I don't know how to create, like, I don't know what hashtags to put in. And, what you post on Facebook should be slightly different than on Instagram and quite different than what you post on LinkedIn. So if you're not a marketing expert, how do you put the word out there that you're active and you're engaged and you're looking for customers if you don't know how to craft that? And that, I find, is the single biggest heavy lifting piece for those of us who are doing so much on our own when we're starting out, is to be able to say, who's my target, who's my ideal client, here's how I'm going to serve them, help me create the social media that's going to tell them that I'm here and available to serve them. Those are the two
Amazing.
biggest things, I think, that at least that I've consistently used AI again and again and again for.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely see the excitement and enthusiasm in your voice as you've been, evolving your business and supporting people as things never stay the same. What would you say is kind of my last final question here? What excites you most about this new evolutionary path that you've chosen? Or what message do you want to leave investors evolving into entrepreneurs who are considering a similar evolution?
Um, so there's a couple of things. One is I love the productivity of AI. So sometimes as investors, and like, tell me I'm not the only one here in the chat. Do you ever wake up in the morning and like, oh, I don't know what to do today. I need a quick win. Does anybody wake up thinking that I'm not sure what to do today, or I have a lot on my to-do list and I don't know where to start, or I'm not sure, I didn't sleep well last night. I'm not sure I'm in my creative zone. No? I'm the only one.
No, no, for sure not. They're probably just a little shy.
Yeah. It's a lot to admit, right? But I find with AI, it gives me such quick wins. And I think about, okay, if I have this question or I need to do this. So sometimes I go and I'm like, I need to do this. Help me figure out the fastest and easiest way to get through this. And you start getting the wins, and it helps you build the momentum. And you look back at the end of the day and all your to-dos are checked off, and you feel creative. And like, even something as simple as, hey, I only have chicken, and I have these 3 ingredients. Give me a recipe
I have
to
totally
my
done
dinner.
that. I've totally done that.
Just basic things like that. It's it's just such a game changer. I don't know how to explain it, but I you just feel like you have a best friend with you. Is that silly? Do you
No,
feel
it's
like that?
amazing. But I think the important thing to really say is that this best friend of yours, this tool, you need to know how to use it to get the
Yep,
maximum optimal output. So,
yep,
I really want to
absolutely.
commend you because embracing AI can be very daunting, overwhelming, fearful, challenging. You name a whole host of things, and you really opened your arms and embraced it and said, I want to be better. I want to have this productivity in my pocket. I want to have every expert in the world in my pocket. I need a best friend and a therapist and a business manager all in one. And you've really catapulted with the use of AI. So I want to thank you today for sharing your honesty and, really explaining what you've seen in the marketplace and what you've really done. And also kind of opening the kimono on how the way your coaching has evolved to help people, not just with, okay, I want to add 3 more properties to my portfolio. There's a whole wealth, and host of other things that you're able to support people on as they're on their journey. So I really want to acknowledge you for that and thank you so much, especially on behalf of all the people who have joined your last 40 plus webinars and haven't had a chance to have an inside sneak peek as to what your world really looks like.
Oh, thank you so much, Limor, and thank you for this. This has been a lot of fun. I haven't really talked a lot about the evolution that real estate investors have been on, but it feels really good to be able to talk about the opportunities. And I think that's one of the challenges is that, we've been really stuck in every couple of weeks there's news about, somebody who's struggling, but this is an opportunity, and it's not an opportunity that 5 years ago it was a lot harder to start a business. It was a lot
Right.
harder to chase your dreams, and AI has just made this whole process so much easier and given us so much more control back, and I'm really excited about that too. So I appreciate very much you giving me the opportunity to chat a little bit about kind of what I've been working on and what's been going through my head.
That's beautiful. So I'm going to turn it over to you because I know you've got to tell us about an exciting challenge and an even more exciting event that's coming up soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Limor. And thank you so much for being such a wonderful and kind interviewer. I so appreciate it. And for sharing your insights and wisdom on AI too, of course. So this is an online summit that I co-founded 3 years ago. This year, my co-hosts are Victoria Clooney and Megan Hubner, and it is September 28th and 29th. It is 100% virtual. And if you enjoyed the session today with Limor, the summit is one intensive weekend of learning what you need to know to be a real estate investor, to start your business, and potentially even expand into the US. It's going to open your mind to the opportunities and to the possibilities that are out there so that you can take charge over your cash flow and not be sitting there at the end of the month wondering where all the money went and how you're going to be able to pay your bills. So, this is really about seizing control of your future, of your destiny. And the next step in that is we are having a sneak peek session. So on Wednesday, September the 25th at 7 p.m., we have Cherry Chan. She's going to be hosting a session called Boost Your Bottom Line. And Cherry does a phenomenal job of talking to people about how to manage their cash flow. But what she's actually going to do is kind of like what Limor helped me do today. She's going to be telling you what changes she's made in her portfolio and how she's pivoted things to improve her cash flow situation in response to the changes in the environment over the last couple of years. So here is how you can find Limor and myself. And I encourage you, please do reach out, book a session with Limor if you want to learn more about how to integrate AI into your business, into your personal life, about just how to use AI to level up. Limor is absolutely incredible to work with, a wealth of information, and absolutely generous with her time. And if you want to explore a little more the idea of starting a business and talk about perhaps your skill set, your vision, the needs that you see, the opportunity, then you can book a call with me and I would be absolutely thrilled to help you talk it through and see if there's an opportunity for you to be able to take control of your cash flow. Obviously, we would spend some time making sure that you have everything optimized that you already have on the go right now, but making sure you have the knowledge and the information to take strategic and decisive action, I think is absolutely critical right now. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up for today?
I
Miss
actually
Limor.
saw a question in the chat box earlier on that maybe we can revisit.
Mhm.
And I believe it's when you were talking about a client of yours who had an Airbnb and couldn't find cleaners anywhere, and it wasn't working for them. And you had mentioned they pulled everything in-house. So all the systems and processes, the cleaners. And the question is, can you expand a little bit more on this and maybe the thought process of the steps that they went through in order to create this business? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, one of the challenges they had was that they had to have multiple different cleaners, because when you have an Airbnb or short-term rental business, people are coming and going, and the turnover time could be as little as 4 hours, sometimes as much as six. But you might have, especially in the summertime, you have people checking out at 10 and then coming in at 4. So if your cleaners don't show up, that impacts your reviews, and then you end up in a situation where nobody wants to book. So the cleaning is one of the most critical pieces of running a short-term rental business. And what they found was, because they were having, hiring someone for a few hours here and a few hours there and a few hours there, that they were hit and miss in terms of their reliability. So when they pulled it in-house and they hired two cleaners, and somebody had these days and somebody had these days, and then if this person didn't show up or something happened, they could always call someone else, then it just meant that the consistency improved dramatically, which meant that they took control of their cash flow, because the reviews, they never had reviews anymore that said like this wasn't clean or that wasn't clean. They found a whole bunch of efficiencies. So they built a team of cleaners. They started advertising and connecting with other people in the Airbnb community. So they took on a whole bunch of other clients. And what that did was it actually brought down the cost to their real estate business, because now they were paying, $20 an hour for cleaners, but instead of being billed $50 an hour, they were paying the $20 an hour. So there was just ways that they found efficiencies. I found the same thing with property management, that when I had my own electrician and I had my own plumber, I had so much more control over my cash flow. Um, does that answer the question? Expand on this. Think of it as investments. Basically, I view it as a way to create another stream of income. It comes back down to the diversity concept, where I have my real estate, my buildings over here generating income, and then I'm using, property management or cleaning or whatever else as an additional stream of income that supports the overall portfolio.
Great. No, I think that really answers it. So another question Anna asked in the end, and Liz, I want you to give your perspective, but Anna's asking, where does she start if she wants to try AI? She's never used it before, and what version of ChatGPT should she be using?
Well, I use ChatGPT 4.0 because it's the most recent one, it's got the most updated one. It's only $20 a month. I don't consider it, cost prohibitive in any way. But my recommendation for where to start would be to book a call with Limor, because, like I said, I was just using it like I used Google, where I go into ChatGPT and I'd be like, oh, what is blah 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 blah, and it would give me like this basic answer. And then I talked to Limor, and Limor showed me how to like open up all of this creativity and really be able to use it as a powerful tool, as opposed to just like another version of Google that you spoke to, or
Yes.
Siri,
No,
or Alexa.
and you know what? That's a good place to start. If you're only using Google, start with ChatGPT, asking it questions every day. And it could be things as simple of, like you said, hey, I took a picture of my fridge and I
Yeah.
uploaded and I said, hey, what can I make with the ingredients that you can see here? Starting by asking questions, things that you're thinking to expand your mind. But absolutely, if you're thinking about using AI for business, I'd be more than happy to have a call.
Yeah. And it can be really, really basic stuff like, your kid is going to a birthday party and you don't know what gift to buy. So you go on, you go, hey, Chat GPT, I live here, and, it's a 7-year-old boy. And, what are the top 10 gifts for a 7-year-old boy who, lives in Canada, and it's his birthday's in December? Like, it can just give you so much great information. I find when your brain kind of stalls, or when you're struggling a little bit sometimes with creativity, it's that kickstart that you need. It's like that little spark that just lights the fire for you.
Absolutely. It's your thinking companion, is how I like to think about it.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear, before we let everyone go, what are you doing with AI? Where are you right now? What problems have you used AI to help you solve? Barbara said, I don't use AI currently for business. I've only used it for personal. I'd love to hear, Barbara, how it's helped you on the personal side. I'm always eager to learn, because sometimes I get ideas from other people. They're like, oh, I tried this and it gave me this. I'm like, oh, perfect. I'll do that next time. Instagram Reels. Oh, interesting. So
Love
has
it.
it helped you write captions, Barb, or it's actually sort of planned them out like a producer and told you what to shoot? Marketing ideas and looking for clients? Awesome. Cohabitation. Oh, nice. Cohabitation. Plan 5-day itinerary for Paris, France, quick vacation. Ooh, So
Right.
Limor, we've got some people here already who are like dipping their toes into the
That's
AI.
great. That's great. And the neat thing is, I mean, AI is evolving so fast. I would say kind of when I really think about AI, there's a number of stages of integration, but starting with just getting comfortable, thinking to yourself instead of going to Google, going to AI and starting to be more creative. Hey, I'm trying to entertain my toddlers in the back seat, make up a game that I can play with them, and this is their level of knowledge or understanding. So, yes, it is. I like how Barbara said it was insanely succinct. AI is going to be very, very powerful. And what I love about what Liz said, and I know that I've said this to her many a time, what we really want to do with it ultimately is help us to solve business challenges, help us to do
Mm.
things better, faster, and cheaper so we can get our time back to really focus on the things that matter most. So I'm really excited that you guys are using it and excited to see where you guys go with this. So Liz, I know we are at the top of the hour.
We are. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. It was such a pleasure to have you here. Limor, you are such a goddess. I always appreciate you and your time. Thank you very much for hosting today. It was
Yes.
fantastic collaborating so much with you over the last couple of weeks to get ready for this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for letting me crash the party and do the hosting. We'll have to do another one in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic week. Don't forget to check out the Real Estate Resilience Summit and join us at the next webinar, Wednesday, September 25th. You're going to see the registration link come out when you get the recording for today. Bye, everyone.